Vinyl guru in the house, and today we talk about a really interesting topic, actually, one that is often talked about, and it's the unanswered questions, because how does one really answer these? Why has vinyl come back, and why CD has slowly started to fade away and die, and why vinyl reigns supreme over CD as of late now? Because given both physical mediums, but why one reigned over the other, why one came back stronger than ever, more than the other, and why the other one is becoming a slowly distant artifact. It's a really interesting topic, one that I've slowly tickled on Frank's channel, channel 33 RPM. I'll link the link down under the description below for the video if you haven't seen it, between me and Frank. Love him. What a doll. What a doll. Just gotta love the guy. But I'm gonna touch on it a little bit more here, and start to, because doing that video really got me thinking about it more, and it got me really head scratching, and I started to come up with some odd little nuggets, I suppose. So let's dive in. Vinyl guru, vinyl guru. Vinyl guru. Now, to answer this question of why you think vinyl came back, is to ask the question, did vinyl ever really leave? Do you think that vinyl left? Some people do, some people don't. It really depends on the kind of counterculture that you were in. Because if for a DJ and for certain audiophiles and DJs, they were still listening to vinyl to the day. It never really left the underbelly of the counterculture scene. So, did vinyl die? To some, they argue that it never really left. It's why in the 2000s there were still DJ promotional copies of certain records still being made and such and such. If it died, it wouldn't really be a thing, would it? Certain genres definitely promoted vinyl a little better than others, though, and this is another conversation. But sure, in the mainstream point of view, it kind of did. And more, I think people were starting to realize that digital was starting to be everywhere, and it was the peak of convenience. But vinyl is the peak of experience. You're really a part of the music instead of just having it, casually floating about whenever needed. It's a really guttural thing because it gets you literally off your ass to be a part of music. I also think that this generation's interest in vinyl is definitely due to a lot of reasons. Some conspiracies are floating about, of course, thinking that maybe the industry started pushing physical mediums on us to start generating some income again. Others believe that the youngsters are maybe trying to pull from other genres of music, better genres of music of the golden years, given the fact that the current state of music is quite boring, stale, and formulaic. Music on the radio, that is. So there's a lot to devour here. As you can see, music has now slowly started to change. A lot of artists now are coming about, a lot of indie artists looking like the 60s and 70s, sounding like the 60s and 70s, recording like the 60s and 70s did onto tape. There are a lot of new artists now that are recording all analog. And there's a lot to be said about that. My theory, though, is here that this extreme boredom that came from the lack of curiosity, just because of the instantaneous, you can get everything and anything instantly, that extreme lack of curiosity has led people to be bored. And it's potentially led people to get into vinyl again, I think, too. Because there's that sense of discovery again. Who knows? There's a lot of ways to discover music. I definitely sometimes stream records to examine them, give a light little scrape. I don't fully go in with a biopsy, but a little spoon or two will do the doctor good. But sometimes you look at a record's cover, you pull it out, and you blind buy it because of the intrigue. It just all depends on the way that your curiosity leaps at you. It's why I mentioned in Frank's video that I really don't think that the vinyl resurgence was brought back by boomers. I think it was definitely brought back by a generation that never even really been to a proper record store and have been like, I mean, this is like digging artifact, digging bones, and now have discovered an entire civilization that they didn't know about. Of course, this curiosity, this intrigue is going to build the big sales. Now, potentially in 10 or 20 years, it might go consistent, but there's a big craze for vinyl right now because everybody was deprived of it. So the sales are driving up the wall, yeah. And of course, boomers are getting in on it too because they're like, hey man, I've got records up the attic. Let me dust them out and start to play them out. And I love this because everybody now is, getting into the process again. In fact, record sales are actually doing quite well during COVID times because everybody is sitting at home and not really knowing what to do. Music therapy, we love you. The other thing is that digital music, instant music you can access right away, which is constantly being flushed out, by the way, it doesn't necessarily equate to good music. Just because it's music you can access right away, it doesn't exactly mean that it's going to be music you're going to want to access right away, all the time. The industry is now getting flooded with an oversaturation of music and musicians now that it's just wild. And labels now are actually rewarding their artists for putting out more music as often as they can, not necessarily focusing on the quality anymore. I think it's why people now too have started to go back and just buy classics. This is why a lot of the records that are being sold, if you look at the annual, year top 10 records that are constantly sold, it is always kind of the classics. And it got me to think why. I really have been trying to figure out the psychology of why. Because it's not necessarily the people that grew up with that music that are buying those records. It's the ones that haven't owned those at all that are buying those records. And it leads you to believe why. Why are they refusing to buy their own music and persuading themselves to go and look back to go forward? It's kind of interesting to me how it's even leaped into the new music that's coming out today in the indie world, because the indies are starting to realize that, harness that, absorb that, and kind of flush that out. That's why there's a lot of these Renaissance-feeling artists. A lot of this retro feel has come back now with a lot of great acts. There's a lot of 60s-sounding acts, 70s-sounding acts, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no shock there. That is a bit of a formula too now, given the fact that we have looked back to look forward. I've started to think about the vinyl listener because they know that their records are being put out on vinyl. Knowing that that's a completely different listener than the digital, it's led to some really interesting things. Having to record an extra song or to put into the dead wax or into the inner label. It's really interesting to me. People are getting really smart with the marketing of it, that you just never could get. An unreleased song that you can never get in digital is now being put onto vinyl. And you've got these artists that are definitely catering to both worlds, both old and new. And there's gotta be a reason for all of this. I can't be the only one discussing this in my head. I know this sounds like a bit of a ramble now, but I can't be the only one thinking these thoughts and going that this must all connect somehow. There's a reason, the stars in the sky, the aliens falling down, all of this leads to something, does it not? The other reason why I think vinyl had started to come back too was it's due to its affordability. Whenever things get out of its hype, of course, the less audience there is for it, the less you can really put a demand on it. So its affordability in the mid-2000s, early 2000s, mid-2000s had led on for that resurgence too, potentially. It's kind of like the cassette world too. Cassettes were so affordable, man. It's so cheap. $5 you have an old album in your hand that you can actually fit in your pocket and still sounds phenomenal. I really love tape too. It is an analog source, but tape is a whole other conversation. But you're understanding where I'm coming from here. Affordability can also account for a lot of it, especially when you're talking about used vinyl. I'm not talking about new vinyl in this case. Sometimes you know, used vinyl is not even being accounted for the overall sales of records too, which a lot of people go to record stores for the used vinyl sales as well. I know I do when I flip through the stores. You never know what you'll find. And at times, some of these new records that they're reissuing, I mean, you can find that for like $4 or $5 in the store. But that's another conversation too. Listen, affordability. It's definitely probably a factor of what brought it all back. The industry is definitely thankful that vinyl has come back too, because it's been its saving grace. Digital definitely hasn't saved people during COVID times. It's been vinyl that has been paying the labels and the artists and the everybody else. And, you know, I mean, look, $250 million is nothing to laugh over at this point. Vinyl is definitely here, you know. She's here to stay. She's here to spread eagle, honey. She's been around, and I don't think she's gonna leave anytime soon. Because she's put up a good fight. She really has. She really is. The reason why I said digital was kind of boring, though, is because it's just one click and it's there. You know, there's no foreplay, no, you know, lubing you up to finally, you know, getting that drop needle and then it comes on and then it's, ooh. There really is a ritual. And I know people say it all the time. I know. But, you know, let me put it to you this way. Digital is the wham bam, thank you ma'am, one night stand. And vinyl is kind of like that long-term relationship that you've always really loved and wanted to nurture. They're two different experiences, my dear. And vinyl has been really saving the industry in a lot of ways, especially lately. I mean, during COVID times, do you think people were really buying much digital? Not really. I mean, sure, some people do that on Bandcamp. I personally have friends that definitely drive in the digital market on Bandcamp, which is really cool. But it's also an incredibly niche market. Not a lot of people are buying digital at all, given the fact that you've got digital available to you everywhere you surf the web. So vinyl has definitely saved the industry, funneled in the labels and the artists and the everybody in betweens, a way to sustain themselves in the meantime. And, you know, I mean, $250 million is nothing to laugh over. Nothing to laugh at, nothing to gleam on, you know? Definitely doing something here. But I mean, it's like this, you know, vinyl is the warm hug, digital is the cold handshake. I take a warm hand over my shoulder, cuddled in hug any day. What do you want? Do you want the fast food? Or do you want that home-cooked meal restaurant gourmet, darling? It's all a personal taste. And I'm not here to judge. You are free to make your choices. Free will is a beautiful thing. But just know what you're getting yourself into, babe. Food for the soul. Or the empty calories. Your choice, honey. Your choice. Now, I know the digital... some high-res digital is a lot of what is being pressed on vinyl now, which a lot of people don't really even realize too. Some major record pressing companies that I can name now do it. But, you know, there is a lot of technicality that I don't want to really get into in this video too much, because I can show you graphs and such, you know, to show you the science of the difference. But I'm just talking the philosophical sense here. Why do you think? I mean, I have some of my theories that I've mentioned here, but what do you think, guys, about what it is? Why the change? Why the twists and turns? Why the storms and hurricanes? Let me know in the comments down below, guys, what you think really changed everything. And if you think it'll continue to change, or if you think we've sustained this nice plateau at this point, and we're able to lay back, we've proved our point, we're here to stay, and y'all can run around and play. Let me know. Anyways, love it, guys. Talk to you soon, and of course, toodaloo, darlings. Toodaloo. Damn it, that was a mouthful, but we did it. Whew. Love it.